Late 1970s Bhubaneswar, Odisha, was defined by strict traditional social norms. Women college students were closely monitored, and communication with the outside world was often limited to handwritten letters. Aradhana, a history student, is struggling to find a moment of peace. She shares a cramped hostel room in a local paying guest house where her roommates are in a state of constant conflict. Exhausted, she spends her final year searching for any quiet space she can call her own. The college environment offered little refuge. This was an era where ragging, the systemic hazing of juniors and vulnerable peers, was a common, often unchecked part of campus life. Aradhana's focus on the mundane goal of finding a quiet room creates a blind spot. Her immediate need for a sanctuary overrides the caution she might otherwise exercise in a high-pressure social environment. The target of the most aggressive bullying is a student named Meeta. She is a total recluse who wears only black, prompting her classmates to label her a witch. One afternoon, a group of bullies goes as far as locking her inside a corridor restroom. Aradhana intervenes, confronting the bullies and bringing a teacher to free Meeta. Shortly after this rare act of kindness, the normally silent Meeta approaches Aradhana with an offer: a vacant room in her large private house in the Vani Vihar area. Aradhana's friends are horrified. They warn her that Meeta practices dark magic, pointing to a strange coincidence. The two students who led the restroom bullying have both suddenly fallen ill or been injured in accidents. Aradhana ignores the rumors. The prospect of a spacious, quiet home with a working landline is a far more tangible reality than college ghost stories. Aradhana moves into the house, but the quiet comes with a condition. She is strictly prohibited from ever entering Meeta's bedroom. The maid begins reporting anomalies. She finds mysterious piles of ash and disappearing bags of mustard seeds. Most disturbing are muffled conversations with a hidden Friday friend who never enters or leaves the house. For Aradhana, this vintage rotary dial telephone is her only link to her family. In an era before mobile technology, this device represents her single point of contact with safety. One afternoon, Aradhana uses the phone to call home. Her uncle, a tantric practitioner who spends his days in meditation, answers the line. Before she can even mention her move, he tells her he already knows she is in a new, unfamiliar house. His voice changes. He warns her that her energy has become dangerously thin and that she is currently standing in a place of great spiritual impurity. He orders her to leave and call him back from a neutral location immediately. The luxury of the house suddenly feels like a weight. With her uncle's warning echoing in the quiet hallway, Aradhana is left alone in a building where the boundaries between her and her roommate are no longer just social. Days later, Aradhana is struck by a violent, incapacitating fever. She is too weak to leave the house, pinned to her bed as her physical strength rapidly deteriorates. At 1:30 in the morning, Aradhana wakes to the smell of something burning. An invisible, crushing weight pins her to the mattress, and she finds she can no longer draw enough breath to scream. She manages to roll off the bed and crawls toward the door. Peering through a gap into the hallway, she sees Meeta sitting on her own bed, throwing handfuls of mustard seeds into a small, flickering fire. Through the smoke, Aradhana sees a second figure lying perfectly still on the floor. It is another body, identical to Meeta, lying unconscious in front of the flames. The figure of Meeta by the fire mutates into a black, shifting shadow. The entity detaches itself and begins moving across the floor, sniffing the unconscious body from head to toe. Aradhana scrambles back to her room and bolts the door. Moments later, a piercing, inhuman scream erupts from the other side of the wall, followed by a total, suffocating silence. The screaming stops, but the air in the hallway remains cold. The events in Meeta's room have moved beyond the range of a nightmare. There is something physical and hungry standing on the other side of the wood. Aradhana manages to reach the college campus the next morning before collapsing. Hospital tests reveal her blood levels reached a critical low, a condition that appeared almost overnight. Her family arrives in Bhubaneswar and brings a priest to perform an emergency ritual. A protective locket is placed around her neck, and Aradhana reports a sudden physical sensation of a great weight being lifted from her chest. Her uncle confirmed that the entity attached to Meeta was actively seeking a new host. Aradhana, isolated and physically weakened, was the primary target for a complete spiritual displacement. Aradhana recovers and never returns to the house. She finishes her degree and leaves the city, but the mystery of what truly happened to Meeta remains unsolved for months. Aradhana eventually returns to the property to collect her final belongings. She is met by an elderly woman she has never seen before, Meeta's grandmother. The grandmother explains that Meeta is gone. She died of a heart attack shortly after being committed to a mental asylum. The truth of Meeta's life is far grimmer than the college rumors. As a child, she survived a horrific assault by a family member, but the crime was covered up to protect the family's social standing. This chart visualizes the progression of her condition. By suppressing the trauma and institutionalizing the child, the family created a profound psychological fracture, a void that eventually allowed an external entity to take hold. The entity didn't appear by accident. It found its way in through the cracks of a decade-old cover-up, taking root in a girl whose family chose social preservation over her survival. The real horror was the silence that allowed the shadow to grow.